The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Get ready to dive into the comic book realm where heroes rise and villains take the helm. We're here to dissect the stories and the art. A source material, we tear the panels apart. Welcome to the source material show now. We don't hold back, we won't let you down. From Batman to Spider-Man, it's all fair game. We'll talk about the heroes, the villains, and everything in between. Oh yeah.
Waka, waka, waka. It's time for Gay Chicken. Bow, 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 bow.
What? That sounds tasty.
So, Howard Stern took the melody of Daytripper by the Beatles,
Okay.
and he would play a game on the Howard Stern show called Gay Chicken, which I know you played before. We've played together.
Oh,
Remember when we were watching Rage Against the Machine and we were waiting, and it was in between sets, and we were waiting for Rage Against the Machine to come out. I'm like, hey, Jesse, you want to play a game? Like, I love games. You like try to get me to play Marvel Snap, and I'm like, put that away. Like, how about you and me in a rousing game of Gay Chicken?
Okay.
Do you remember that?
I do not remember that at all, but okay.
It's time for Gay Chicken.
Oh boy.
Daytripper. In case anyone's wondering where that idiotic opening came from.
I love it. I love it. My goodness, Mark Radulich, you've done it again.
This is another fine mess you've gotten us into, Radulich.
Well, here's the thing. So yes, we're going to be talking about Daytripper tonight.
I so thought you were going to say we're going to be talking about Gay Chicken.
No Gay Chicken.
Episode.
No.
Okay.
Nope. Daytripper, a 2010 comic book, came out from Vertigo, and I'd heard about this book. I didn't know anything about it other than I just heard it was good.
Yeah.
So
this was everywhere for a while. Like, it was on a bunch of reading lists. It was always like, if you walk into like a Barnes and Nobles, it was always like on an end cap or like a featured comic book. They pushed this comic pretty hard, especially when it came out as a trade.
Mm-hmm.
Did you lose me, Jesse?
I lost you for a quick second.
Okay.
So especially as it came out as a trade, and I was like,
yeah. So then I was expecting a response.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm not trying to talk the entire episode. Okay.
Well, I thought you froze there for just a second. That is not the case. You were actually waiting for me to respond.
No, if I actually talk and allow you to host your own show, I'll just start. Maybe I'll just end my sentences with booby looby loobies.
Oh, there we go. I like that.
And you know when I'm done talking. I'm done talking now. So I think maybe I'd heard about it from another podcast. That's where I'd heard about it. So I'm assuming this was a Mark Shelf deal here. This was sitting on your shelf. So actually, this is because of the Crow. Remember?
That's right.
Material? Yeah, I wanted to do the Crow, and I went to Fancy, and I was like, find me books like the Crow that we haven't already done. And it suggested Daytripper and the Many Deaths of Layla Starr, and I was like, okay. And then after Darth Vader, you were like, please stop trying to review 50 comics in one show. So, so we moved Daytripper to its own episode. Is what happened.
Okay, and this definitely feels like that was part of that trilogy. When you compare this, it definitely reminds me of Many Deaths.
That's what it was. Star. Like it took like Death and Resurrection from Crow and was like, run with that. Yeah. So that's how Daytripper and Many Deaths of Layla Starr all got roped in there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to read you a little something. I had our buddy ChatGPT do some deep research and
put your hand on my inner thigh, give it a big squeeze, and read to me.
Here we go. Like I said, 10 issue comic book limited series. This is created by Brazilian twin brothers, Fábio Moon and Gabriel Ba. The story follows Brás de Oliva. Let's try it again. Brás de Oliva Domingos, an aspiring novelist.
Your Spanish is delectable.
Oh, thank you very much. I took 2 years of it in high school.
Sorry. All right, Robert's gonna get mad at me. Sorry, you're Portuguese.
I'll roll my R's, just like I was saying hi to Natalia.
Listen, if you can't roll your R's, you can always give him the old Popeye.
I give him the old an aspiring novelist who writes newspaper obituaries for a living. Each issue of Daytripper depicts an important day in Brás's life, be it a personal milestone, reunion, or turning point, and ends with Brás's death in an alternate reality. These repeated deaths are not literal continuity, but a narrative device. With each chapter, the comic explores what is the meaning of life by showing.
He fucking tries to figure that out, and I had to go to ChatGPT. I'm like, why does he keep dying?
Yeah, this dude keeps dying. What is going on here? I'm waiting for the big reveal at the end, and lo and behold, that does not happen. There's not like some reveals of why this is occurring. This is just a narrative use, device here. So it shows how even ordinary days can become profound in retrospect. Across the series, Brás experiences love, friendship, family, success, and loss, living many possible lifetimes only to die at the end of each scenario. Despite its morbid premise, Daytripper is ultimately a hopeful meditation on life, highlighting the beauty in everyday moments and the legacy we leave behind. At its core, Daytripper is about life, death, and the value of each day. Moon and Ba use death as a narrative hook. Brás' many deaths to illuminate the preciousness of life. As one reviewer noted, make no mistake, Daytripper is a celebration of life. Death in this book is merely a device to drive home the message of seizing the day, carpe diem, because very well, it could be your last. Each chapter highlights a defining moment in Brás's life, his first kiss, a reunion with an old friend, the birth of his child, the loss of a parent, emphasizing that these pivotal experiences shape who we are. By showing Brás at different ages, the story asks the reader to consider which moments truly matter in a person's journey. So the origin of the concept came from a sudden insight by Gabriel, who recalls thinking of how a lost bullet could cross his window and kill him out of the blue. And just like that, what would be his life up until that point? What does death mean in our lives? This morbid thought sparked the idea of a character who lives many lives and dies repeatedly in different ways. Not live, die, repeat, though. Let's leave Tom Cruise out of this. When Vertigo editor Bob Schreck later asked for the brothers to pitch a series, they developed this idea into Daytripper. Fábio Moon explains that although the story features many deaths, death makes us think about life. So ultimately, we wanted to tell a story about one man's life. In interviews, they emphasize the Daytripper is not literally autobiographical. Brás is an entirely fictional character, believe it or not. But it's not a stand-in, is what they're trying to get across here. They're twins did draw on a universal theme, some Brazilian cultural touchstones, but the events of Brás's life and his famous novelist father in the story are not based on their own lives. All right. And one striking aspect of this book is its non-linear structure. The chapters are not told in chronological order. For instance, one issue finds Brás at age 32, and then the next flashes back to age 21. Another later jumps to his old age. This unstuck in time approach was very deliberate.
Could you imagine reading this monthly? Like this was 10 monthly issues. Could you imagine like every issue you pick it up? Like, well, where's the story going? And he's at a different age, a different point in his life. It's like weirdly titled.
It's so funny that each cover of every issue had like a quote from somebody kind of famous or attached to the literary world or whatever, praising what was going on. And I was like, what the hell's going on? I'm trying to figure out like what do they know that I don't? And obviously the big thing is like, it's kind of like the hook, but then you start to realize, as you get to issues 3 and 4, this is going to continue to happen to this guy. But where do we end? What's going to end? How's this thing going to end? I think that was really, as I was reading this, what made me stay invested. Like, okay, are we going to get an answer as to what's going on here?
I wanted to see definitely wanted to see where it was going. Like once I was hip to the jive that he dies at the end of every chapter, but it's a symbolic death. I was like, okay, so what's the big reveal here? Because like with the many deaths of Layla Starr, she goes on a journey.
Yeah.
You know,
She's learning something each time, and she's
Right.
keeping that. This is not happening with this guy. Like, he isn't continually keeping continuity in his head as to what happened before. It's brand new for him.
It definitely made me think about how I don't want to get tremendously personal, but I feel like after the fact, I kind of related to the concept of this book of feeling like you died in a certain place.
Mhm.
Like your physical body, your life may have continued on. Like I
Right.
am chronologically 49, but I definitely feel like there are points in my life where the me who was living at that time died a very real death. And I became a very different person after that. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because this will end up being yet another hour of Mark's therapy session. And I just did a whole TikTok on emotional vomiting, and I don't want to do that to you, Jesse. I have been told your kink is not when I vomit all over you emotionally. So
that is
I
not
will
my
leave it at
kink.
that. It's not your
Well,
kink.
it's interesting you say that, because I actually wrote that down in one of my notes here. I can't remember what issue it was.
Emotional vomiting is not your
Yes,
kink.
I said emotional vomit, and it says, as for Mark, don't engage. No, I wrote down here that it was very much a situation where, you know, there is a loss of something, or you're just moving on, and it's a different chapter. That's kind of what I thought too. But in this guy's case, each chapter that hits, he dies at the end of every single one of these when these chapters hit, and when the new page is turned.
But it's like it's not even like a spiritual death. In one, he gets like fucking stabbed to death on a beach. Another one, he gets run over by a truck.
Yeah,
you know,
literal death is what happens to this dude when that happens.
It's implied as a child he grabbed an electric cord.
Yeah.
You know, like these are very real, painful, physical deaths. It isn't like she broke my heart and I died that day. You know, it's like she broke my heart and fucking dropped a piano on my head.
Literally.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to talk about the first 3 issues. We'll break, have a little discussion. I got a few like jumping on points here. Then the next 3 issues, same thing. And then the last 4, same thing. So I'll read a summary here of what happens in chapters 1 through 3. So anything you want to get off your chest here before we jump into the summary, and then questions on our first 3 issues?
I think before we start talking about this, like, again, you kind of just take whatever I throw at you and be like, all right, well, you know, you'll talk about it. So I know I'm not going to get a lot if I ask you, like, oh, what did you think about me making you read this book? Because you're always like, I'll read anything. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I have, yes.
But I am curious, like, between me telling you this is what we're doing and you going through the act of reading it and making notes on it, did you have any reflections as far as the kinds of comics you like versus the kinds you don't like, and where this landed? Like, did you like? I picture Jesse's just like, can he ever pick a Booster Gold comic?
That is not me. That is not me.
Thank God I have unspoken issues, and I can get a break from Mark's weirdo comic collection.
No, that's not me. I enjoy books like this for sure. I mean, this is Vertigo books are great. If you start looking at some of the stuff that came out in Vertigo, you know, they're not beholden to the because Vertigo's I think an imprint of DC. I don't know if I'm using that terminology right, but basically, you know, they're, you know, they have the ability to do whatever they want with their books. They can tell, you know, we're not going to have Superman showing up and interacting with our main character here. That's not something that happens in these, because these storytellers are there to tell a story that isn't going to be beholden to DC continuity. So I really appreciate some of the stuff that Vertigo does, because not only do they kind of push the limits, but a lot of times they have great storytellers that are involved in a lot of the books that they put out there.
It really does, like, take the comic book medium and kind of divorce it from its traditions and its origins. And, you know, it becomes one of these, like, this could have very easily been a novel. This could have very easily been a short story. Could have very easily been a movie. Could have very easily been a television show.
Yeah.
It was just the walks of life that got them to do this story as a comic book. But, like, that, I guess that's my point. Like, this is one of those that didn't have to be a comic. Could have been anything.
Right. Right. And the other thing I'll say is that, like I said, I had heard some buzz about this book.
Mhm.
I didn't know what it was. And at some point in my reading ventures, I think I would have actually landed on this and picked it up and read it myself without being prompted by you. So again, it gives me the opportunity to dive into something that I really wanted to check out.
The last thing I'm gonna say before I give you back your show and stop taking it hostage is I didn't know anything about it, but it had, between the title, the cover art, the fact that ChatGPT was associating it with the Crow and the many deaths of Layla Starr, I thought it was going to be more ethereal. Like,
Okay.
I've never dropped acid, but when you drop acid, you're tripping out, right? Or you're tripping balls.
All right. Right.
And the book is called Daytripper. And so I'm expecting this to be psychedelic, ethereal. Like, I expected to get on here and be like, I loved it. I don't understand a word of what I read.
Right. Right.
But this has got a very clear narrative to it. It's non-linear. And so out there, Robert Winfrey's like, you hate it, don't you? And he's beating me with a sock and, fucking soap in a sock. You hate non-linear storytelling. Tell the truth. I'm like, how did we get there? But I was not expecting it to be this concrete, this straightforward. Based on, again, like, The Crow is kind of a weirdo story that deals with magic. Layla Starr dealt with magic. There's no magic in this book.
No. And just like you said, when you look at the covers of these issues and the art that's in the book, some of it is, the covers definitely make you think like, oh, there could be some weirdness going on here, but
they use really watercolors. Isn't. Watercolors elicit dreaminess.
Yeah.
A state of an ethereal state of mind. Like, I want to, like I don't get high, but I kind of want to when I think about the way it's presented. And then you actually read the book, and you're like, oh, I don't want to get high and read this. I'll get afraid someone's going to stab me on the beach or some shit.
Yeah, last thing I need to do is start tripping and then read a story that, where the guy dies over and over and...
You were dead! It's like, you turn to the fucking Step Brothers. You were dead! That's all, you die!
Oh, shoot. All right, well, here we go. Let's get into our summary of our first 3 issues here. So our first story opens with Brás. He's a 32-year-old obituary writer who dreams of being a novelist but feels overshadowed by his famous father. We follow him through the mundane rhythm of his day, walking his dog, fielding calls from his mother and wife, bantering with his friend Jorge, and dreading, which, by the way, when I was in Spanish class, that was my name. I was Jorge.
I've been El Jefe for many years now.
El Jefe, the boss.
By the way, I kept oscillating between George and Jorge.
Okay, good enough.
Because I really wish the fucking Spanish and the Portuguese would make up their minds.
Bantering with his friend Jorge and dreading the gala honoring his father that night. After struggling with his own writing and spending hours at the newspaper, he reluctantly heads out, but a detour for cigarettes takes him to a modest bar. There he connects briefly with the bartender, Gennarino, over their shared experience of living in their father's shadows. The night turns tragic when Gennarino's nephew, Yoka, storms in, desperate and armed. In a burst of violence, Yoka kills his uncle, then Brás. The issue closes with an obituary-style reflection. That's going to happen in a lot of these issues. Brás dies on his birthday, age 32, his life cut short as if it were just beginning. And then we get into the second issue. Brás is 21, traveling with Jorge through Salvador. He's restless, searching for freedom, beauty, and direction, while Jorge is more grounded. Brás soon meets Olinda, a striking and enigmatic woman who, and their conversations about love, identity, and the pace of life stirs something new in him. Drawn to her, he follows her through markets to a beachside ritual honoring Imanya. There we go. Imanya. That shows up later. And the goddess of the sea. Their connection grows quickly, culminating in a night together. Brás feels caught up in possibility, as though he has stumbled upon love and destiny all at once. Yet the morning brings loss. As he follows a priest to a boat that heads into the sea, Brás himself drowns, claimed by the waters in a cruel twist. The chapter ends with the reminder that he was only 21, full of potential that would never be realized. And the third issue shifts again, this time to Brás at 28. So yeah, as you can see, folks, if you didn't catch on the last issue where he died at 21, but he died in 38 in the first issue, now he's at 28. We find him reeling from the collapse of a long relationship with Olinda, whose bitter parting words still echo in his head. He lives alone, smoking and drinking, haunted by the life he thought they would share. His father advises him to pursue unforgettable moments and not settle for mediocrity, but Brás struggles with emptiness. Jorge tries to cheer him, even jokingly writing an obituary for Brás as if heartbreak had killed him. I think that's where it clicked for me. I guess I had to have it spelled out like, oh, okay, this is kind of what we're doing here. But nothing can shake the lingering weight of failure. Then, in a moment of chance, Brás encounters a stranger in a bakery, a woman whose beauty and presence instantly ignite hope. For the first time in ages, he feels alive, certain this is the beginning of something new. Brás runs back to seize the chance, his heart surging with joy, but fate intrudes once more. A delivery truck slams into him before he can return to her, ending his life at 28. His obituary reflects a man who was searching for love in the desert of modern life, cut down just as he rediscovered its promise. Together, these three issues, I'm not even going to read that sentence because you know how ChatGPT is. All right, so there's our first three issues. When I'll go ahead and start with mine for our first issue here. There's a note. Oh my goodness, why did I not take a snapshot of it? In our first issue, he's upset. It took me a while. I think I actually had to read the issue twice to realize that he was upset that, his parents didn't remember his birthday because his dad was getting honored that night. His dad didn't wish him a happy birthday. His mom didn't wish him a happy birthday. And the whole issue, it's his birthday. Well, Jorge remembers. And he writes a beautiful note on the inside of the birthday card. I'm scrolling down here to see if I can find it. Give me just a moment, because I thought, man, this thing, it spoke to me. And I think it spoke to me today because of obviously some of the horrible events that are happening in our world. Mm-hmm. But here, let me read this to you. The young open the paper to forget about life by reading the funny strips. The old do it to forget about death by reading other people's obits. My advice, don't open the paper and go on with your life. What do you think?
Head in the sand, huh?
Don't open the paper. Don't open the phone. Stay off of Facebook. Stop scrolling TikTok.
There's some good stuff here in these first three issues. That first scene in the bar, makes a great opening to a movie. Kind of like, how did I get to this place where I'm in a bar and I happen to be in the bar on the night this guy's nephew freaks the fuck out, shoots the bartender who is his uncle and
Who's his uncle?
Yeah. And just, and runs off with the money because he's desperate. The book treats death as this unavoidable entity. But just because death comes for us all does not mean death has the same reactions. People treat death differently. Some people live every day like it's their last. Some people try to try to avoid death, like, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to eat leafy greens. I'm going to do all the things. But then it's funny. I think about the Dennis Leary line about, the jogging guy. I don't remember if it was Jack LaLanne or somebody else, but he wrote a jogging book and he did this and he did this. When he fucking died when he was jogging, that's when. You do all the right. It is the ultimate. You do all the right things, but nobody avoids death. Though I don't know, man. You spend as much time kind of sorting through social media as I do, especially on the AI technology side. And every third post is we're this close to defeating death.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. I do think, and it's funny because this is a comic book podcast after all, and about 10 minutes ago, I referenced your, affection for traditional superhero comics. How often Marvel kind of dealt with that sort of thing, where they treated death as another character, like literally, was definitely with Thanos. Thanos is like, I worship death, I love death, and death is portrayed as an actual like woman. And I've made the jokes before about death as modern woman. It's like Thanos is like, I'll do anything to please you. Like, you can't do enough. I assure you. I will never be satisfied. But so I don't need to make those same jokes again. Jokes. But thinking about like Death, Galactus, some of the other cosmic beings is where I was going with this, as natural forces of the universe. Like if you remember the trial of Reed Richards, one of the things that he got put on trial for by all the cosmic beings and alien races was that he had defeated Galactus. He had caused Galactus to not be able to feed anymore, if I remember correctly. And they were like, you can't do that. Like, Galactus is a natural force of the universe. Like, there must be birth, life, decay, death, rebirth. That's the cycle. If you break the cycle, you break the universe. And I feel like in its own way, Daytripper is trying to speak to that.
Oh, yeah.
Without getting into weirdo cosmic, beings that that regardless of what decisions this guy makes, no matter where he puts himself, you cannot. It's like Final Destination. You cannot outrun death.
Yeah.
But the last thing, and I'll shut up.
Okay.
Those first 3 issues, I think it makes one of the things that becomes very apparent, almost to the point of being repetitive by the time you get to the end of the book, is how we all have such a tenuous grasp of life. And some of us celebrate it, some of us waste it. So sometimes you start out celebrating it and then you end up wasting it because, life can be cruel and unfair. I think it's the second or third issue where he meets the chick from El Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
Can I talk about this for a second?
Oh, absolutely.
Kind of getting away from the death thing. The best thing about this book is these guys seem to really have a grasp of human behavior in a way that I don't necessarily always see in a comic book. Him meeting this wonderfully bizarre woman, just this absolute fucking goddess sent from heaven to take him on a trip of the life fantastic. And 7 years later, she's like, I'm bored. You're boring. Your job sucks. Why aren't you home more often? I hate this life. I hate this apartment. I hate you. I'm packing a bag and I'm wandering into the street. And I'm reading this and I'm just like, I may have to put this book down.
My first note on that third issue is like, what did he do? Like, she is there.
What did he do? He committed the ultimate sin, the original sin. He was a dude with a job. That's all he did. That's what he did, Jesse.
By the end of issue 21, well, I shouldn't say by the end, but in issue 21, he meets Olinda and they we're wondering if a relationship can happen, and then he dies at the end of that. But whatever, we're writing that off. We get the part of the story where he's met her, and then just like you said, 7 years later, on his 28th, we see that they did have a life together. But we are right at the end of that because it opens up with her going, "You're a piece of shit."
Blaming him for all. I didn't want this life. He's like, you didn't want any life. He was like, I wanted to be something special. He's like, who the fuck stopped you? And I'm just sitting there like, did y'all take this from my fucking life?
Yeah, I was going to say, Mark, I figured you would have had some relation.
I had a visceral reaction to that. I got up for a little while and put the book down. That was pretty rough. I mean, we watched him go through that. And then, like I said, that was my first question was like, what did he do to elicit what's so wrong? And her, just like you said, her explanation is like, she seemed more
to me, she seemed more free spirited, I guess is the best way to put it. You know, she felt more free spirited and believed that um one of the things I remember her saying was like, I didn't come here to be a housewife.
Right.
And so I don't know what she was expecting, but obviously
For him to solve all her problems and for her to always be happy.
yeah. I always got the sense that Brás was he was somebody that was always concerned about having a career. He was always concerned about, trying
like money to pay for stuff? Yeah,
trying to make a living.
Fucking weird,
yes.
man.
But back when he was 21, and you and I both can actually kind of relate. When you were 21, there was that sense of like, oh, there's so much lying ahead of me.
Oh yeah, I had hope and dreams and light in my eyes.
Right. Unfortunately, yeah, just like you said, 7 years later, we have responsibilities. We have to make the rent. We have to pay for the utilities. Unfortunately, that free spirit can't continue in ourselves. And I guess maybe that's what she kind of represents for him is, his free spirit embodied by Olinda walking out the door. He is committed to being a dude, just like you said. He's being somebody of a productive member of society.
Well, it's funny, again, the theme of this book being life, death, resurrection. When she leaves, a part of him dies. And it's the part of him that he's saying goodbye to youthful indiscretions. Like at some point, those of us who embrace adulthood realize that the party is fucking over. Sure, we have moments of levity, but like like you said, especially if you start families and stuff, you have to put away childish things. It's actually funny. Part of the reason why I love doing this podcast with you is because I never know which direction it's going to go in. Like I never get worried we don't have enough material. But for example, I read a book. I just did a TikTok on it. It's part of Rattledge University now. Rejuvenation, and it was talking about how the change from like 100 150 years ago is like very quickly in a man's life you had to become an adult, and becoming an adult is putting away childish things and taking on all the responsibilities of running a farm, running a home, earning money, taking care of your family, and then the second half of the 20th century comes along and America is given the gift of, of leisure.
Yeah.
Suddenly, like, kids are told you can stay kids for a while. In fact, we're encouraging you to stay kids for a while. And then you multiply that out 2 or 3 generations and look at our peer group. How many of us collect Funko Pops and action figures and comic books that are really meant for children. We hang on to the stuff of our youth well into adulthood. And I won't press it any further, but there are adults who really struggle with that. They don't know when they struggle with the concept of I have to eventually become an adult, where I'm allowed some light leisure, but for the most part I have to be a serious person and can't do it. They can't make the leap. And so here's him doing the good work of trying, and there's Olinda saying, this is a sin. This is terrible what you're doing. This is abuse. This is neglect. This is all the bad things. And it's like, this is being an adult. That's what this is. And they are clashing.
To tie that in with, I've done a lot of thought on what you're talking about because, here I am. I look at myself. I'm 47 years old, and it doesn't just not fly by me that, hey, I still collect comics. Why do I really enjoy looking at these action figures, And I believe, and I am also a very nostalgic guy. I always love the 80s, and a lot of what I think goes into that is freedom. Back then, as a child, you had the freedom to do these things without having to worry about all of that. So
every day I wake up and I will scan TikTok lives, and every day when people should be working, I just see people hanging out on TikTok live, these motherfuckers who are spending work hours fishing on TikTok Live, and they're like my age or younger, I'm like, I want to sink your boat. I want to like fucking play a real game of Battleship and fucking sink your boat.
Yeah,
like, I'm chained to my fucking desk, getting emotionally vomited on for 9 hours at a time, because that's my kink, I guess. And there's these people on TikTok Live just have all the time in the world to fucking sit there and just drool all of themselves while people watch for no good reason. And I'm like, God damn, why is why?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and at the end of issue 3, I need to get this out before we move on, because I'm going to forget. It would be a great wrap-up thought if I would have thought about it before we started the show. But again, as I said earlier, it seems like each time that he's dying is right on the precipice of something that he's figured out.
My girlfriend's like, you're talking about me this. Here, I'll put it up on screen.
Like,
you're
yes,
talking about me this weekend. I'm really not, though. I was not referring to you at all.
There you go. All right.
You're trying to work. I'm talking about the people not even trying.
Each one of these moments where he's realizing something, and then he dies, is with this story as a whole. I think what they are trying to say, and I may have said this at the beginning, but again, I want to hammer it home. And you may have said this as well, but each one of these moments that he is figuring out, it's tragic that he dies before he can do anything with it, especially like at issue 3. He sees the girl, I think, at the bakery at this point. This is where he sees Anna. And he goes to talk to her. He's like, no, I'm seizing this moment. And he goes to talk and gets hit by a car.
Yeah. Yes,
well, sir. What I guess as a whole, this story is trying to do is show you that, as tragic as this is, this happens in your lifetime multiple times. And that's kind of what they're trying to show here, is that, here he's had 10 great moments and they were taken away from him by death. And you need to understand that your life has these moments, and to, again, appreciate the fact that, be aware of death, and also appreciate the fact that you're alive, and again, seize the day. But all right. Enough of that. I'm ready to move on to 4 through 6 here, if you are. All right, here we go. Our summary for issues 4 through 6. In issue 4, Brás is 41, on the verge of becoming a father himself. His wife Anna goes into labor, but their joy is quickly shadowed when Brás learns that at the hospital.
Much to say about this.
Man. Brás learns at the hospital that his own father has died. He hides the news from Anna so as not to disturb her during childbirth, bearing the weight of both beginnings and endings in silence. At the funeral, Brás reflects on his complicated relationship with his father's fame and legacy, and even meets a half-sister he had never truly known. Later, his mother insists that he retrieve a baby gown chosen long ago by his father. At his parents' house, surrounded by memories and his father's study, Brás suffers a sudden heart attack and dies at the same age and in the same way as his father. Let's try that. I don't know. It was not at the same age, but he dies at that very moment, just as his son Miguel was born. In issue 5 turns back to Brás's earliest years, opening the story with his miraculous birth during a citywide blackout, which earned him the nickname Little Miracle. We then see him as a boy at his grandparents' ranch, immersed in family traditions, childhood games, and the discovery of small but profound truths. He notices time's passage for the first time, realizing his mother will one day look like his grandmother, sensing the cycles of life unfolding. Amidst playful adventures and a first innocent kiss, Brás experiences fleeting moments that shape his understanding of family, memory, and identity. The issue closes with tragedy. Chasing a kite caught in power lines, young Brás is electrocuted, his bright life extinguished as suddenly as it began, underscoring the fragile beauty of childhood innocence. And then in issue 6, the narrative jumps to Brás at 33, when he is working as a reporter. A catastrophic plane crash in Sao Paulo consumes his newsroom. And Brás is assigned to write obituaries for the victims. He throws himself into his task, but his thoughts are haunted by Jorge, his best friend, who was supposed to be on a flight that day. Unable to reach him, Brás balances professional duty with the personal fear of loss. Eventually, Jorge calls to explain he narrowly avoided boarding the doomed flight. The brush with death leaves Jorge shaken. He decides to abandon his old life in search of meaning, while Brás drives off into the night, reflecting. Actually, I think he drives off to go find Jorge, reflecting on their friendship. On the road, though, his car collides with a truck that whose drowsy driver
can't get away from fucking trucks.
had fallen asleep at the wheel. And Brás dies at 33, his obituary narrating how his words had brought solace to grieving families, but his own story ended suddenly. A couple things before you get into this one, because there is a lot. There is some heaviness here. I mean, this whole series is heavy. And as we're getting towards these later issues, I'm starting to feel sad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the effect this comic book is having on me. I'm not finding, I know I'm supposed to find joy, but I'm starting to realize, how much he loses just at the moment he discovers something. And I think that's what really starts to weigh on me.
Could you imagine if we had done this the same episode as Layla Starr and The Crow?
I don't know where I would have put it. I think Layla Starr was at least somewhat, as we get to the end of that, it's a bit hopeful.
Right. Even The Crow ends with like a positive note. He kills all the goons, he avenges his girlfriend, and he finally is free of the curse.
Yeah.
Then there's this book, and it would by the end of that episode, you and I would have shot ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that stands out to me in issue 4, when he goes back to his dad's, his mom sends him to go get the baby gown. And this is just after his dad had passed away. They had the funeral, I think, and everything, I believe, at this point. I was a little confused on the timeline here, because I think she goes in, Anna goes in, but she's not having contractions or something at the time when his dad dies. And then I think they have the funeral, and then they go back into the hospital to have the baby. But anyway, when he goes to the house and he starts seeing the remnants of his dad, I mean, just, I remember going to my dad's house after he passed away, like shortly after. And this is something that really struck home to me, because I remember walking out onto the deck. I have a picture of this in my phone just because it struck me when I saw it. When I walked out to to the deck where my dad and my stepmom used to sit at night and enjoy, the beautiful sunset or whatever, sitting on the railing was a half-smoked cigarette and a Zippo. And that shit right there just reminded me exactly what Brás is going through here. There's another moment in the previous issue, and I think this is purposely done, where Olinda leaves him. She's gone, and he's looking around the apartment that's completely empty, except, there's one of her, I think it's a pair of underwear just hanging on a clothesline or something. He's seeing all these remnants, and he even says, like, he can't go back to that place. He's got 6 months left on the lease. He can't go back in there because of everything that's going to remind him of the life that could have been. Right. That, I think, is probably one of the biggest things that spoke to me in this whole book. It was just those moments. So I wanted to bring that up first. I'm going to go ahead and let you go here. What were your thoughts?
Oh boy. I got to talk about when he's with his wife. And I remember both my kids, but especially the first one, because it was new. I'd never had a kid before. I did not leave Melissa's side until I was told get out of the room.
Oh, yeah.
You can't be in the room. They're going to give her like an epidural or anything. So, like, there were certain times where I had to leave, but I never went further than the door. Like I was right outside the door. I also was like fucking bodyguarding. You know, like her mom wanted to go in there. I'm like, not, no, you're not. Like it ain't about you, Brett. I was with my kid's mom the entirety of her pregnancy in the hospital. And she's like calling for him, like, don't leave me here. And he's like, I gotta go take a call. You know, like, don't get me wrong. I've had like management positions where I've been on call where I've had to leave family functions to deal with work. It happens, but not during the fucking birth of my kids. There are some parts of this book where he's a sympathetic character, and other parts of it, like, he is fucking oblivious. It's to the point of frustration.
I think, again, the point which we just made about how in the previous issues about how he is committed to being an adult in deadlines, whatever, you know, whatever he needs to do to make his career work. I mean, I don't know how many times you've been on a call with Evan Bevins, who gets a call, you know, something from the paper. He immediately has to answer it. Now, granted, we aren't pregnant wives, but you know, he's committed to.
He's never abandoned me during a podcast, but we've had a lot of reschedules.
Well, I have had plenty of recordings pause and edited out because Evan Bevins got a text. The point is that I feel like that's kind of a similar situation here, where he has responsibility to whatever job he's doing, and I think newspapers can but regardless, I get it. I mean, clearly, this is a big moment. You wouldn't expect him to be.
It's such an important thing to be there for your wife.
Right.
The time of her birthing your child. Like, that supersedes anything having to do with your job. I mean, you know, with certain very, very specific exceptions. But the worst part of it, Jesse, the part that I was like, I've been in that position before, where he's sitting outside with his mom. And his mom's like, go back to the house and get this like jumper or blanket or whatever it was. And he's like, I'm not leaving the hospital to run and go get this thing. He's like, well, your father would have wanted. Like, the mom is so goddamn manipulative.
Oh, you know, wow.
Like, go to the house, get this thing. He's like, it's not necessary. He'll have it when he gets home. No, your father would have wanted it this way. Leave the hospital. Leave your wife. Go all the way home. Grab this thing that I could have brought myself if it was that important. But no, let me be as disruptive and intrusive as I can possibly be in this moment that isn't about me, but I'm going to make it about me.
Oh my goodness, man. You had a reaction to that. I did.
Almost threw the book through my bedroom window. Dude, I was ready to jump. You ever have a moment where you're ready to jump into the book and fight somebody? I was fucking pissed.
And then what happens? He goes and gets it and dies at his mom's house in his dad's study.
Even better.
Gosh.
I fucking hate it. I've never hated I didn't hate Thanos for killing half the universe. I kind of saw his point.
Oh,
this bitch is worse.
Aurora did not intend any. I took it like, no.
Wow, you did not have that. You have not.
No, I just what Aurora, how his mom's name Aurora. Everybody, what she. I guarantee you what she felt was like, hey, just go get this. Your dad would have wanted this. She obviously felt that they have all the time in the world. She wasn't expecting him to die.
Were her fucking hands broken? She couldn't carry it. She couldn't bring it with her. Was that important? No. How do you not? I want this to be on trial now. How do you, Jesse Aloysius Starcher? How do you not see that she fucking did that purposefully? Purposefully to be involved, intrude upon this situation that has nothing to do with her.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question here. All right.
Have I been hurt before? A little bit. Have I experienced this before? A lot.
He had to leave her side, right? Because he had to smoke a cigarette.
Okay, I wasn't in love with that either. Let me be clear. The only person I have sympathy for is the mom. Is his wife, who's having a baby.
Yeah. Right. Right. You've already established that you didn't like him anyway.
Not
Some of
that
the times.
issue. Jesus Christ. Like, I know you're birthing my child. Let me go take this call that's super important. And then it's like the mom. Then he didn't tell the mom to go fucking jump in a river. He's like, all right, let me go back to the house to go grab this paper bag with a fucking baby cloth in it. And oh no, now I'm hit by another truck because apparently I can't get away from them.
Nope. Okay. Issue 5 was where it was the young, I believe, our young Brás here. And that's kind of where I started to catch on. Like each time that he dies, maybe it represents a death of innocence, maybe as well, a new stage of life, whatever. I like that moment where they kind of point out that he starts to realize that people start to get older. Because I certainly, gosh, I'd probably have to take a good half hour to try and remember when I first started to recognize people getting elderly, or that people would get elderly. But it is something for sure to try and realize that the people that you love are going to get old. And I think now at 47, it's definitely setting in for me.
Well, it's interesting because like I remember being 18, 19, 20, and like one of my friends wanting me to like hook up with this girl who was like 30, I think, and feeling like, ooh, you're a little old for me.
Oh,
like,
and you're like, whoa,
and like being a kid, and all the adults in my life are between the ages of like 30 and 50, and they could have been 100 for all I knew. They all seemed old to me. Like I am at the age now that when I was a kid looked at and said, you are a million years old. And it's like, I'm wearing a shirt that says say perhaps to drugs. You're like, the fucking bastion of maturity that I am. But there are times where I absolutely feel every bit of almost 50. And then there are other times I'm like, I don't feel as old as the people that were old around me.
Right.
But that goes back to retaining your youthful spirit, maturity, emotional intelligence. There's a lot that goes into it. And that issue, I think, in a way that almost kind of elicits a lot of theme in horror movies of like the death of innocence. Like the kid fucking the whole thing is like the kid's hanging around with other kids. Not a whole lot happens in this issue, and a kite gets like caught in a power line, and the kid innocently goes to touch the power line, and it stops just before. It's implied he's going to touch the power line and die, but you don't see it. The issue just ends.
Mm-hmm.
And
we get the obituary.
Yeah, you get the obituary, and and it's for me that issue is just very straightforward, a commentary on like the death of childhood innocence. That I think also there's a message in there about what happens to children when they have no mentorship, guidance, parenting. When you're, like there's a bit where he goes to talk to his father and his father's like, I'm writing, leave me alone. Like there's plenty of times I'm here, making AI music or AI videos or working on podcasts, doing stuff just at my computer, doing the good work of being a content creator. And my kids will come up to me and ask me stuff. I will stop what I'm doing every single time. Like, I can't really do it now, but if one of them needed me, I would put my headphones down and run over there. You certainly have over the years. How many times you've dropped your headphones or run after one of your children who's,
falling through a bed.
I was going to say, bound and determined to throw himself down the flight of stairs. Mongo need daddy, and just roll down the stairs. But actually, it's funny you mentioned the fucking bunk beds, because that's one of my long-standing memories of you now, is you having to, it was like late in the podcast, and you had to like run away real quick because one of your kids had fallen through the bed. And then you were like telling me about it. I'm like, did you just leave your child in a nest of nails and jagged wood? What did you do?
Caleb never slept on the top bunk ever after that.
This is your bunk, boy. I'm not sleeping up there. I'm traumatized.
No, just grab the mattress, lays on the ground
like a homeless. But yeah, like we both have had different things that we've had. This is another, like, it's terrible, but it's funny. There's an actual podcast recording, a legit podcast recording that I think I was doing with Robert way back in the day Like, my kids were babies. And I know this because one of them is a baby, one of them's an infant that's about to roll off the couch.
Oh dear. Oh my gosh.
Because you hear me doing the podcast with, I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm doing the podcast with Robert, and you just hear me stop and yell, Melissa, get him! Two crashes.
Oh.
Just howling, crying.
Oh no.
So I think what had happened was Jonas, who was a baby, was lying on the couch, and Melissa was fucked off somewhere, and Lily decided to mount him and give him the old ground and pound, and they both tumbled off the fucking couch like Frodo and Gollum. Good times. Anyway, don't neglect your children is all I'm saying.
Yeah, always have time for them.
Always make time for your children before they roll off the couch or touch electrical wires.
Last thing I wanted to point out here was a neat bit of storytelling that they did in issue 6, and I thought this was really cool. I made the note of it. So at the very beginning of issue 6 is where we meet the trucker, and he's talking to, or we see the trucker sitting at the bar, and
I ain't getting on no plane.
Yeah, that's exactly what he says. He goes, because at this point the plane has crashed. It's on the news, and he goes, "I've been all over the country, but I never took no damn plane in my life. Never. Nope. Just me and my truck and the Lord. With him by my side, nothing bad can happen to me inside my ride." All right, so that's what he says. I don't know. We don't know who this guy is. He just is sitting at the bar. He says those words. And he walks out, and then by the very end of the issue, as we're going through the panels where Brás is heading to try and find Jorge, because Jorge has called him and said, "Hey, I'm okay," and he's like, "No, I'm going to come down there and I'm going to be with my friend." He says in this. We see it from the perspective of the trucker, but as he's talking here, Jorge was my best friend, and that's what friends do. They care. They find each other and stick together when things get rough. Friends are worth every effort. Friends matter. And then he says, no plane. Well, I guess this is coming from the trucker. He's kind of patting the steering wheel. "No plane is better than you, buddy. God knows the roads we cross together, and you've always got my back. I take good care of you, and you take care of me. You're my best friend, and you never let me down." As he falls asleep at the wheel. Now, when I was reading this, I thought that was dialogue from Brás, but it's actually the trucker that's talking. But you could almost intertwine or switch the two, because he's talking about his friend Jorge and how, and look at it as he's talking about his friend Jorge and how much he values their friendship. But it's very important, before we move on to the last 4 issues, it's very important to remember what happened here. The plane crashes. Jorge did not get on the plane because of some kind of shenanigans, and he was getting ready to take the next one, and they actually got him off the plane or something like that, and then he realized the plane had crashed, and he's freaking out about it. He calls Brás, and he's like, I need to, I need to think about my life. This has really messed with my head. I'm just going to take I'm not coming back to my career. He was a photographer for the newspaper. He wasn't even going to go back to that. He's like, I'm just not coming back.
Right.
That's important, because dude had, well, we'll talk about it here in a second. Are you ready for the last 4?
Let's hit it, baby.
Let's hit it, baby. Here we go. Hit it, Darren. In
I played that for Ronnie last night. Ronnie was fucking cracking up laughing.
He sent me a message just out of the blue a few days back and was like, "Hit it, Darren." I was like,
nice.
Yeah, it's good stuff. In issue 7, Brás is 38 and now a successful novelist, recognized on planes and at events for his book Silken Eyes. Though admired by strangers who act as if they know him through his work, Brás reflects on how few people truly know him, and his thoughts return to Jorge, his old friend who vanished years ago. Following a postcard, Brás travels to a remote coastal village in search of him. There, he hears from locals how Jorge lived as a drifter, eventually isolating himself in the dunes. When Brás finally finds him, Jorge is gaunt and unstable. The reunion turns violent. Jorge, racked by regret and madness, suddenly attacks and kills Brás before taking his own life. The issue closes with an obituary framing Brás's death as the tragic end of a man who believed in friendship, only to be betrayed by it. In issue 8, we shift focus to Brás's family life, told largely through the perspective of Anna and their son Miguel. Brás, now in his 40s, is often away on book tours, but he leaves behind letters, notes, and messages that tether him to his wife and child. Through Anna's memories and Miguel's admiration, we see the warmth of his presence and deep ache of his absence. Daily routines, breakfast, school pickups, bedtime stories highlight the bonds that define their lives, even as Brás's constant traveling strains them. When Miguel proudly shares his father's words at school, the poignancy of Brás's absence cuts deep. The issue ends with Anna and Miguel clinging to Brás's lingering presence through his letters and recorded words, reminders of love that persists even when the man himself passed away at a hospital. In issue 9, Brás is caught in a layered dream that blurs the line between memory, fantasy, and reality. He drifts through surreal landscapes, guided at times by Jorge, at other times by visions of his son and father. The dream confronts him with the truth he has long avoided, that death is inseparable from life, and endings are what give stories meaning. He explains this to his young son in the dream, likening life to a book that can only be understood once the final page is turned. Moving through symbolic spaces, a canyon, a tree, a beach filled with kites, Brás slowly accepts that he cannot wake up, that this dream is really the passage toward death. At last, he finally wakes up and steps peacefully into the light, introducing himself as a dreamer, ready to write his own final story. And in the 10th and final issue, bringing Brás's journey to its end at age 76. Diagnosed with brain tumors, he refuses further treatment, choosing instead to spend his last days with his family and in his home. He reflects on the meaning of home, not as a place, but as the people and memories that shape it. Surrounded by his wife and son, he finds peace and continuity, the passing on of family, tradition, and love. His son delivers him a letter written decades earlier by Brás's own father, offering wisdom about parenthood and the inevitability of letting go. As the words guide him, Brás walks alone to the beach at night, casting flowers into the sea and accepting death as part of the great cycle of life. The series closes with him fading into the ocean. I don't know if he's walking into the ocean or if he's just enjoying it. Who knows? So you get this sense of finality there. But the series closes with him fading into the ocean under a starry sky. His father's letter reminding us that every ending is part of the miracle of existence. All right. That is our final 4 issues. Issue 7, I'm just going to go ahead and touch back on with what happened with Jorge. And you tell me if you thought this as well. I feel like the event where Jorge did not die caused him to have some type of mental break. He goes to that island, or he stays on the island. They think he's a tourist at first, and then he just kind of stays there. He doesn't leave. And then he's like sitting at the bar writing postcard after postcard after postcard after postcard. And I don't think he sends half of them, if any of them, except for the one that he gets. But there's a ton of them there when Brás finally finds him. And there is
to the disillusionment of adulthood, doesn't it?
I mean,
like here's this guy who, he has kind of a laissez-faire, carefree attitude, but he's also a working man, just like Brás. But in his case, he, like adulthood just fucking snapped him.
Yeah, I could see that.
I feel like there's a lot of this going on in this book where, much like death, adulthood is this force, this entity, and it's not changing. You either live with it or it just crushes you. In the case of, what was it, Olinda? She was just like, adulthood sucks, tween forever, and like runs out the door. In the case of this guy, like, he can't get his shit together, and he like has a psychotic break, and it's a fucking stabbing Brás on the beach.
Yeah, it was very, took me by surprise, number one, because throughout this whole thing, you're like, Jorge's his best friend. He's going to finally find Jorge. They're going to be buds or whatever, but he finds him and he is just not all right. No. I mean, I think there's also a commentary there about, friendships that kind of go away and what it's like to kind of find them again. Now, granted, your best friend that you might have had back in 6th grade isn't going to hopefully stab you to death, But
Oh, I know
regardless,
quite a few people from high school and elementary school that would still stab me to death to this day. Absolutely. Many of which are girls. Many of which are girls.
Oh wow.
There's definitely a handful of guys though. There's just like if they fucking see me, I'm a dead man.
Oh no.
Are you
Look at
coming
that
to
guy.
are you coming to like the 30-year reunion? Absolutely not.
Not happening.
Not gonna happen.
Not happening. Yeah, it's tough. And sometimes when you meet up again with that person after so much time has passed, it's almost like they're not the same. And Brás is like, come back with me. Come on, let's go back to civilized society. And he is not having it.
I mean, you're still living like in your hometown and whatever else, so you may be connected with people you knew from high school. But through social media, I still see like the occasional person in the same grade or a grade ahead of me on Facebook, and yeah, they're fairly active. They'll post stuff, and I'm as somebody who has been described as a very angry person, I look at what some people put out there from the people that I grew up with, all upper middle class people, mostly Caucasian, Italian, Irish, Jewish, all the same background, most of us 2-parent homes. They're also fucking angry. I see so much of that like on social media. At least what they're putting out there. Who knows what they're like in their real life? But I actually remember catching up with an old friend, a guy I lived across the street from, and it was like I voiced an opinion that he didn't like, and it was like, you're a Nazi, and like, all right, and was like, and like I'll never speak to you again. And I'm like, we're barely speaking now,
dude.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I watched. I don't know how many friendships I've kind of watched this all on Facebook. I mean, I here lately it was obviously a lot, but there was a really weird interaction I saw over. It was probably over the weekend, and somebody just, I mean, out of the blue, they knew this person from the past, and it just. I'm deleting you and called them a couple names. And it wasn't like there was a large argument that happened that I could see unfold, but you watched the friendship kind of dissolve. So yeah, there's some anger out there for sure. For sure.
Just like anger that nobody seems to know how to handle.
Right. I'm starting to realize that a lot of people believe that, that is their only way, their outlet is to attack somebody online. That is their way of handling their anger. I don't think a lot of people take into account their mental health, Mark.
I was gonna say if social media would dry up if everybody had impulse control.
Oh, dude. Well, what would it be like if that wasn't there?
Right.
I mean, do those feelings go away, or do these people start hitting their kids again? Because if that's the case, then I guess social media is serving a purpose.
I could abuse my children or put a retard post on Facebook. What am I going to do?
I'll tell you which one you should do. Okay.
Fair. It's a fair statement,
yeah.
Jesse Starcher.
Issue 8, the one where it is just Anna and Miguel going about their day when Brás dies. That one wrecked me. That was rough.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is because we're at issue 8 at this point. We know what's going to happen to Brás.
Right.
Now we get to watch other people experience that he's been around. We've, his son, who's like, I want to say 8 or 9 or something like that. There's career day going on. And it's like, it's a train wreck now that is going to happen. And you're reading this and you get to suffer the feelings that they feel. You get to watch them experience these feelings. And it's sad, man.
You'll never quite know how much you touch the people around you until you're gone. And by then it's too late. Like Gavin once said, and I'll call him out by name. Gavin once said, suicide's the most selfish thing because, while it may end your pain, you do nothing but cause the pain to people around you. And you really don't know how, your being gone is going to impact the people around you. Look, I have some dark days, but I will always remember that the most important people on earth are my kids, and that's worth fighting another day.
Right.
But not everybody makes that same calculus. Not everyone has kids that anchor them, to the world as they're about to float away into the sun. So for a lot of people, it's a bigger struggle. But I know for me, it is the thing that really keeps me grounded, is knowing that if I can't gather the mental strength to continue to go on, do it for them at the very least. Like I said, a lot of people don't make that calculus.
Well, and let's go ahead and I'll roll my comments from that into what we learn in the final issue, because that really, kind of intertwines with what you're saying. Brás is now 76 years old. He's learning that he is going to die eventually, and he's come to accept
brain cancer, right? His brain cancer, right? Yeah.
And he's come to accept that he's going to, and now he's no longer going to try to fight it. So, his son has grown. His son is moving into his mom's old house, and this was a moment, man. There was a copy of Brás's novel sitting on his dad's desk that had just been sitting there. And when the kid moved in, he starts packing up everything in the study. And he tells Brás, he's like, Dad, hey, I found this on Grandpa's old desk. In the novel that you wrote, I guess it just sat there. Like, I'm sure his dad was very proud and left it there on his desk to understand what his son's accomplishments were. But he said, I open it up and there's this envelope, and holy shit. The envelope contains a letter that his dad wrote on the day that his son was born. And I guess his wife was going into labor, whatever. And that's the way we close this book, is his dad's thoughts on how you are no longer the sole reason for being on this planet. The kid that you are having, that is the sole reason you belong here. That is the sole reason for your existence. This no longer your life now. It is your kids. You are now giving your life to your kids. And as he's reading this on the day that he's decided that he is leaving, he is done fighting the fight to stay alive, it just hits doubly hard, because that has been sitting there for years, for at least 30 years, and he's never read it. Powerful. It was very powerful. And he just has that moment that he's sitting there. Gosh, and flipping back to issue 8 before I forget about this, the whole Anna listening to voicemails of Brás that he left, the days before he died. I mean, again, that shit I do with my dad. My dad left me voicemails. I still have shit from 3 or 4 years before he died still saved on my phone, and I listen to it every once in a while. So there's a lot of real experience that this book is talking to me with.
That's the best thing about it. Like I know, like I did my usual, I keyed into the relationship, or like a toxic woman, but all of this book is just I am who I am. But,
and that's all I can be.
But I think if people are like, would you recommend Daytripper? Yes, but I wouldn't recommend it because of any of the other reasons it's been recommended. I would recommend it because I haven't seen two guys in the comic book world really capture human behavior and relationships as good as these two guys did. This is lived experience in comic book form. It's pretty brilliant. Is it like the best thing I've ever read? No, I mean there's stuff that I got more excited about, the stuff that kind of touched me. But I mean, like, some people are really don't get into media to see real life reflected in any way. They want pure escapism. That's not this book, short of the fact that the guy dies in every chapter. This book very much I told you, like I said, there were at least 2 different occasions where I almost threw the book out the window.
Right.
It got to me so badly. And people would really struggle with that. Like, I would guarantee you, if we had 10 of, like, we had Chris Bailey, Ronnie, Alexis, Pat, and Robert, and like we all had them like read this book, we would get 10 different reactions, and at least 3 or 4 of those guys would be like, "This isn't why I read comics," and like set it on fire. This is, and I think that's a semi-legitimate criticism of I read comics for fantasy. I read comics, for escapism. I don't read to be reminded people are shitty, and that life is short. Death comes for us all. Like, thanks, no, I got it. Life is also hard. No shit. Give me my action comics. So, but just to kind of close out, like I'm glad we did this. This is again one of those where I kind of fell ass backwards into doing this book, just because I was looking for something connected to the Crow. As many times as I saw it, I think I was curious about Daytripper because I kept seeing it everywhere. And now that I've read it, I'm like, okay, I get now why this got an Eisner Award. I get why I also understand why people actively ignored it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a weird book. Like, the artist in me appreciates what's going on in this book. The business person in me is like, who the fuck did you make this for? Who reads comics? Like, how did we decide that audience in this format? Like, I have this really great idea, and every issue the guy dies, and it's going to talk about life, the universe, and everything, and relationships. It's going to be like every emotional pain you've ever felt is going to be in this book, from birth to death. Great. How do you want to tell that story? I'm thinking comic book. The shit that Superman's in? What the fuck is wrong with you? But here we are. This is the book right here. It's a comic book.
That's what makes the medium beautiful and
by the way,
so accessible.
What'd you fucking think of the Doonesbury artwork?
I didn't hate it. I mean, I honestly did not. I thought that there is again a place for that type of art, and it didn't detract from the story for me.
I thought I was actually expecting it to be a little bit more loose, a little bit more fluid, especially because because
of the title, right?
Well, that, and also because the covers, the use of watercolor, like I was saying before. But that's only in the covers. I mean, if they were using watercolors throughout the book, it doesn't show because it's the artwork is still pretty sharp, very defined.
Yeah. Well. All right. Well, that was your final thoughts. I mean, my goodness, I definitely think that if you want to read a comic about life and death, much like what we've talked about with the many deaths of Layla Starr,
you want to be depressed for an hour.
You're not
angry, and angry the rest of the day.
I honestly, I think a lot of what I worked through reading this, there was a bit of like, okay, why is this happening to this guy? Okay, there's a message here. Am I getting the message? And then, talking it out. I think this is one of those books that's perfect for like a book club, because just like you said, if we had 5 or 6 different people that read the book, they're going to come at it with their own. You heard so many lived experiences that I had tonight because this book echoed that for me. And I think it has a lot to offer of those same experiences for everybody.
I didn't really relate to the book at all.
I don't know about that. All right. Well, there it is. Ladies and gentlemen. We discussed Daytripper. Mark Radlich, let's go ahead and get into plugs.
All righty. Well, the next time we're doing source material, which I need to talk to you about, but we're skipping the month of October and we're going right into November because we're prepping for Christmas. And I originally was like stacking books and then you hollered at me. So I just left one book, but it's only 80 pages long. So I don't know if you want to add to this, but I want to talk about Santa Claus Private Eye by Jeremy Bernstein.
I've never heard of this. Sounds interesting though.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon, or you can just read it off of his website. One day each year, Santa Claus brings presents to the children all over the world. The other 364, he moonlights as Nick Santana, a town on his detective,
Nick Santana.
trying to make his way in a lonely city. This is right up our alley.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Well, I mean, you got to have something else to do the rest of the year. So Nick
we all need a hobby.
Santana. I love it.
Absolutely. So that's what we're going to talk about next, and then maybe we'll add something to that particular episode, because I don't know if we can pull
80
an hour
pages
out of
is
80.
80 pages is not a whole lot.
Okay, well, you and I will talk and see what else we're going to talk about on that episode.
Okay.
That is our anchor book that we're doing, because I initially had more, and then I was like, oh well, I don't know how many issues this amounts to, so I'll just do the one book and not get myself in trouble. In the meantime, tomorrow you'll be back again.
I will.
I can't quit you, Jesse Stalcha. We're going to be talking Happy Gilmore 2, Heads of State, and the Thursday Murder Club. Have you finished watching all these movies?
It's so funny because this is one of the few times I watched all of these movies way before you even scheduled them.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, like I watched. Well, I shouldn't say the Thursday Murder Club. I think that was something that I was like, oh, I got to watch this, and then I was like, what the heck is Heads of State? Oh, that's right, I watched it like a month ago with Mindy, and then Happy Gilmore 2, we watched it like within 2 or 3 days after it released on Netflix. So
yeah, that one I watched a little while ago because Erica and I watched it because she didn't want to watch one of my fucking Harvey Keitel jerking off to women in cars weeping movies that I would make her watch. So the whole genre of movies. That is Bad Lieutenant. I make that joke now like every podcast.
I'll remember that.
Weepy Harvey Keitel. Oh, it's on YouTube. You just go ahead and you Google the Bad Lieutenant, show me your tits, and you will find Weepy Harvey Keitel.
Safe mode on. Actually, no, it's going to be Control-Shift-P. Open up a new private browser. Do not remember my history.
All right, so that's that. Then Alexis and Robert will be doing Damn You Hollywood. They'll be reviewing The Long Walk. I will be going to Cage the Elephant on Wednesday, but you and Alexis will be reviewing Stranger Things Season 2. And then I'll be back on Thursday with David and new friend Kathleen Scott. We will be talking Star Trek Strange New World Season 3, which I actually watched most of today. Next week, you and I will be doing with Mick and Cooper Paradise Lost Ascension on the Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox. Then we'll be doing him on Damn You Hollywood. Him. And Wednesday, Harry Broadhurst and I will be doing Beyond Wrestling American Rana. Yeah.
Okay.
And then finally, another triple feature catch-up episode. Myself, Mick, and Robert, and Gavin. We'll see who actually shows up. We'll be reviewing Drop.
Schedule them all. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Drop, Echo, and Sinners. Yep. It's September. We're finally getting to Sinners, the one movie everyone fucking loved when it came out and saw. And we skipped because I wanted to talk about WrestleMania instead.
I have not had a chance to watch it, but I've been wanting
You're
to.
the only one.
Apparently.
So that's what's going on with me. What's going on with you?
Oh, well, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow on the Source Material Comics podcast, Darth Vader, the 3rd volume is going to drop. You can hear me and Mark Radlich reach the end of the saga that occurred in Marvel Comics. Darth Vader, we talked about Vader Down already. Now we're getting into some of the crazy stuff, the Shu Torin War or whatever that was called. And then, Darth Vader takes control of a space whale and drives it right into the sun. Oh, spoiler alert. Crazy stuff. That's going to air tomorrow. Last week on Unspoken Issues, myself and Chris Armstrong got together and we discussed Spectacular Spider-Man number 185. I got a message from Chris today. He goes, is there something wrong with my audio? Why I sound like RFK the whole time now? I said, no. I said, I hit a button that says studio sound and it does not like when somebody is doing a podcast and recording over the internet. Regardless, I couldn't go backwards, so I kept it. And so he sounds a little funny. Next up, Snap Material. Yes, myself and Evan Bevins got together a couple weeks ago and talked about the latest, or no, maybe it was last week. Latest season. That's what they're called, of Snap, Marvel Snap, the mobile game that you can play called Marvel Snap. That's on your phone. We talked about last season, upcoming season. Our top 5 was fun. Evan's like, let's just do top 5 character / cards that remind you of football. And doing top 5s, Marvel Snap top 5s with Evan is fun because we do some off the wall crap. And then it's fun to see how much overlap we have because we each have a top 5. And yeah, that was a good time. At the very least, check that episode out because I'm sure it'll keep you entertained. And that is it. I guess I'll throw one more plug for Unspoken Issues. Right now, I'm currently in the process. I think I told you about this, Mark, but I'm currently in the process of doing Black September. That was an event. Yeah, well, that's an event that occurred 30 years ago where Marvel acquired Malibu. And they were like, hey, we're going to bring this universe into ours. We're going to fold it in. You ever hear about Prime, Mark?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about this.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you ever hear about Hard Case?
Yeah.
Ultra Force? Okay,
Yes.
well, you heard about them 30 years ago. You hear about them now? No, you don't.
Why are you yelling at me?
There's a lot of anger and upsettedness about the fact that they took these characters, own the universe, and now they just don't use them because of reasons. But anyway, regardless, you can hear me and Chris Armstrong and some great backing tracks. That's right, Mark Radlish. I remember telling you about the backing tracks to some of the story that's happening there. All September long, I'm covering that whole event that occurred 30 years ago, at least the lead up to Black September and the first issues of the reboot. So that's it. That's all I have.
All right, folks, thanks for joining us here on Source Material Live. He's Jesse, who has to talk to me about our schedule now. I'm very tired. Be well, be safe, and behave.